Do you believe that love can blossom in the most unlikely places? Imagine a hospital with its cold corridors, artificial lights that never go out, the smell of disinfectant mixed with hope and despair. Now imagine two completely different people, each carrying the weight of secrets that could destroy any chance of happiness. And yet, amidst all this pain and uncertainty, something happens. Something neither of them expected. Something neither of them was prepared to face. That's what we're going to talk about today. And I guarantee this story will move you in a way you might not expect. Do you know that moment when you look at someone and feel like you've known them for a long time, even though it's the first time you've met? Well, that's exactly how this unlikely love story begins. Two strangers, two completely opposite worlds, united only by the fragility of life inside a hospital. She, a hardworking woman who knows well the weight of bills that don't add up at the end of the month, the sleepless nights caring for her daughter alone, the difficult choices that life has imposed without asking permission. He, a man who seemingly has no financial problems, but who hides behind this facade of truth capable of changing everything. And here's the point I want you to pay close attention to, because this is where the story gets really interesting. Stay with me until the end, because what happens when these two worlds collide will make you reflect on forgiveness, on second chances, on the true meaning of love. We're not talking about that soap opera romance where everything is resolved with a kiss in the rain. We're talking about something real, raw, painful, and at the same time profoundly human. Have you ever stopped to think about how many secrets we keep, how much we hide from those we say we love? In this story, each character carries a past that could easily destroy any possibility of a future together. And when I say destroy, I'm not exaggerating, because sometimes fate has a cruel sense of humor, connecting people in ways we would never imagine. What would you do if you discovered that the person you're falling in love with has a direct connection to the worst phase of your life? To the most painful loss you've ever faced? This is the kind of moral dilemma that doesn't have an easy answer. It's the kind of situation where there is no absolute right or wrong, only difficult choices and their consequences. And that's why this story is so powerful. It forces us to look inside ourselves and question, how far does our capacity for forgiveness go? Is love truly capable of healing all wounds? Or are there scars too deep to be erased? What you're about to discover might surprise you, because this isn't just a story about two strangers falling in love in a hospital. It's a story about redemption, about how our past choices haunt us, about the price we pay for our mistakes, and about the courage needed to try to start over even when everything seems lost. It's about looking at your reflection in the mirror and recognizing that maybe you're not the person you thought you were, but still having hope that you can become a better person. So get ready, because what comes next goes beyond a simple hospital romance. We're going to delve into a plot where every revelation completely changes the game, where each secret that comes to light adds a new layer of complexity, where love and pain walk side by side through the same silent corridors. And it all begins with a simple glance, at that exact moment when two strangers' eyes meet for the first time and feel that their lives will never be the same again. But before we continue, I need to tell you something. If this topic resonates with you, if you've somehow experienced something similar or know someone who has lived through a similar story, leave a comment below about what has touched you the most so far. Seriously, I read every comment, and every story shared below enriches not only this channel but the entire community we are building together. It's incredible how these accounts make us realize that we are not alone in our pain, our doubts, our daily struggles with forgiveness and second chances. And look, if you're enjoying the content so far, click that like button. It may seem like a small gesture, but that's exactly what helps this video reach other people who also need to hear this story, who are also looking for answers to dilemmas similar to the ones we're going to explore here. Your participation is what makes this channel grow and bring this type of content to more and more people who need it. And if you're not already subscribed, take this opportunity to subscribe to the channel, because every week I bring you stories like this, stories that move us, that make us think, that touch our hearts deeply. Stories about love, forgiveness, difficult choices, second chances. Real stories about the complexity of being human. Turn on notifications too, so you don't miss any new videos. Trust me, you'll want to see what's coming next. Now, let's get down to business. Let's meet her and him, understand how it all began in that hospital, and discover what explosive secret is about to be revealed. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because what happens on that first date challenges everything we think we know about human connection. Think about it. How many times have you passed someone and felt something inexplicable, that's strange, feeling that this person, somehow, is going to change your life? That's exactly what happened between her and him in that cold hospital corridor, under fluorescent lights that extinguished any romanticism we might expect from a first date. She had been there for weeks, living an exhausting routine of waiting and anxiety. Her tired face betrayed sleepless nights in uncomfortable chairs, but her eyes still shone with the strength of someone who cannot afford to give up. He arrived on that particular day with a posture that tried to disguise his fear, carrying an emotional baggage as heavy as it was invisible. And when their eyes met for the first time, something changed in the air. It wasn't love at first sight in the romantic sense. It was more like a silent recognition, as if two wounded souls identified in each other the same pain disguised as courage. He sat far away, but couldn't stop discreetly observing her. She pretended to read a magazine, but felt the weight of that gaze that didn't judge, only understood. There were silences laden with meaning, the kind of silence that says more than 1,000 words could. What neither of them imagined was that this seemingly casual encounter held a hidden truth so devastating that it could destroy any possibility of a future before it even began. The behind the scenes of this story hide revelations that go far beyond mere chance. And it is precisely from this moment that their journey takes a completely unexpected turn. What began with shy glances and shared silences soon transformed into deep conversations that lasted until the early hours of the morning. You know those conversations you have with someone and it feels like you've known them for years. Well, that's how it was between them. In the empty hallways, while the rest of the world slept, they shared bad coffee and life stories they had never told anyone. She opened her heart about the daughter she was raising alone, about the dreams she had to put aside to make ends meet at the end of the month, about the loneliness she carried even though she was always surrounded by people. Every word she spoke was filled with raw truth, unfiltered, without masks. And he listened to everything with an attention she hadn't received in years. But when it was his turn to talk about himself, the answers came vague, incomplete, as if there was always something being left out. What she didn't know was that behind that simple man, dressed in ordinary clothes and drinking bad coffee from the same plastic mug as everyone else, lay a completely different reality. He wasn't just another distressed visitor in a hospital. There was a fortune, an empire, a whole life built on decisions that now haunted his sleepless nights. But in that place, between those four walls, he just wanted to be a man. Just human. Just someone who was also afraid and also needed someone. And as the days passed, what was just companionship began to transform into something more. Hands that touched by chance, glances that lingered a few seconds longer, smiles that appeared even amidst exhaustion. Love was growing there, silent and inevitable, but the tension also increased proportionally. Because the closer they became, the more dangerous the moment when the truth would come to light became. And like everything that is hidden, the truth has a cruel way of appearing exactly when we least expect it. It was on an ordinary afternoon, one of those that promised nothing special, that everything crumbled. She was in the reception area waiting, as she did every day, when she saw on the television mounted on the wall a news report about a businessman involved in corporate scandals. Labor lawsuits, allegations of misconduct, lives destroyed by cold decisions made in meeting rooms far removed from the reality of ordinary people. And then the full name appeared on the screen, along with a photo she knew all too well. The impact was instantaneous. Her legs trembled. She gasped for air, and suddenly everything made sense in a terribly painful way. That man who listened to her so attentively, who held her hand during those difficult nights, who seemed to understand her pain like no one else, was the same man who, 10 years ago, had closed the factory where her husband worked. The same factory whose closure triggered the spiral of depression, alcohol, and despair that drove the men she loved away from her and their young daughter. The revelation wasn't just about money or power. It was about a devastating connection between past and present, about how fate had a perverse sense of humor in bringing together two people whose stories were already intertwined by tragedy. When she confronted him, when tears mingled anger with disappointment, he couldn't deny it. The masks fell from both sides, and what seemed to be pure love was now immersed in questions impossible to answer easily. Because this is the question that lingers and affects us all: how far? Does our capacity to forgive someone whose past choices have caused irreparable pain in our present go? Is love enough to overcome this barrier? And it is precisely at this point that the story deepens in a way that shakes everything we believe about right and wrong. Because after the bomb exploded, after the screams echoed through the corridors and the tears dried, came the heaviest silence of all. That silence where each person had to look inside themselves and make decisions that didn't have easy answers. He could simply leave, return to his life of privilege, and forget all that as just another inconvenient chapter. She could nurture the justified hatred and move on, carrying this wound along with all the others. But life, especially within that hospital, had other plans. His daughter needed him present, not just physically, but emotionally whole. And for the first time in his life, he understood that all the money in the world couldn't buy time, couldn't heal guilt, couldn't erase the trail of destruction his corporate decisions had left behind. That's when a real transformation began, not the superficial kind of charity work to clear one's conscience, but a profound change in mindset. He began searching for the families affected by the factory closure. Not with lawyers or non-disclosure agreements, but personally, face-to-face, asking for forgiveness without any guarantee of receiving it. Each conversation was a blow to the armor he had built up over the years, and she was there, witnessing everything, watching a man deconstruct himself in order to try to rebuild himself better. The hospital was no longer just a place of waiting. It was the stage where redemption happened in real time, where the pain of the past transformed into the possibility of rebirth. But the burning question is, does genuine change erase the mistakes of the past, or are some actions irreparable? And it was with this certainty, or perhaps with this hope, that we reached the end of this journey. 6 months had passed since that day of revelation. The hospital remained the same, with its cold corridors and lights that never went out, but the people who walked there were no longer the same. His daughter was better, the treatment had worked, and she had finally been discharged. Seeing that child smiling, with her hair beginning to grow back, was living proof that miracles still happen, even in the most unlikely places. But what about the love between them? That's perhaps the hardest part to digest, because real life doesn't work like a movie where everything is resolved with a moving song and a tight hug. They were sitting on that same bench where it all began, where their eyes first met, where their deep conversations took place. And there, in that moment of silent farewell, he said something that perfectly defines what true love is. I will never ask for your forgiveness, because I know that some things are unforgivable, but I will spend the rest of my life trying to be the man you deserve to have known from the beginning. She didn't promise anything. She didn't say everything was all right. She didn't pretend the pain had disappeared. She simply answered with the same raw honesty she always had. I don't know if I can love you without thinking about what I lost, but I want to try. And perhaps that's exactly what makes this story so real, so human. There was no cinematic kiss in the rain, no dramatic declarations. There were only two wounded people, choosing, day after day, to try to build something new on top of the ruins of the past. Look, if you've made it this far with me, I already know this story touched you in some way. And that's exactly why I make these videos, you know? Because I believe that stories like this, that talk about real love, about forgiveness, about difficult choices, have the power to make us see our own lives in a different way. So if this content resonated with you, click that like button below. This simple gesture helps more people find this kind of story, and I know I'm on the right track. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, now is the perfect time to hit that subscribe button. Every week I bring you stories that deeply touch you, that make you reflect, that remind us of the complexity of being human and the choices we face every day. Turn on notifications too, because I don't want you to miss the next videos. Oh, and leave a comment saying I'm with you until the end so I know you've truly been on this journey with me. I love reading each comment and knowing what these stories evoking you. There's a video over here that complements this topic, which talks about how to deal with past hurts and still choose to move on. Click and continue with me there, because this conversation is just beginning. See you in the next video.